Now, that first year of college is a big milestone for students and also for their parents. It's an exciting time, of course, with new opportunities, but also new worries. So how can you keep your college freshmen mentally healthy? Dr. Tom Golightly is a psychologist at Brigham Young University. It's great to have you. Great to meet you. You see there are some things parents and students need to be aware of from a mental health perspective going into that freshman year.
Absolutely. There are a few things that students tend to do and parents tend to do that make the first year experience maybe a little more difficult than it needs to be. And some of that's on the parent side, some of that's on the student side. And it's wise that you have a few conversations maybe before they go or just after they go, kind of helping them find their own groove, so to speak, as they arrive on campus.
You're going to help us get into those conversations with some solutions in just a minute. But first, I'm curious to know, how common are mental health struggles for college-age students?
They're actually relatively common, and these days students are seeking help at kind of a record pace. And about 40% of students, not just freshmen, all college students, report overwhelm or anxiety for a significant period of time during the school year. About 30% report symptoms of depression during the school year. So there are quite a few students on campus that are going around kind of struggling, and for the most part they feel very isolated in their struggles. And in fact, a lot of college students are, so it's not uncommon to be struggling throughout the academic year.
I think those statistics are certainly attention alerting, although I'm not surprised. I mean, you think of all the changes they're experiencing and the new homework load, the new school load, the new environment. It seems to add up. When is professional help a good idea? When do you know that you've reached that point that you should reach out?
Well, I'm going to give a list of things, but if they're hitting 5 to 7 of these things, it's probably a good idea to go and suggest that they go get help.
Okay.
Now, before I say that, it's your student's responsibility to go seek help.
Right.
As an adult, they have to go and engage those services. So expect if you give the suggestion once or twice, it might not be received real well to start out with, but the message shouldn't change and the care shouldn't change. But if you're seeing your students struggle with sleep, not staying out all night, not sleeping, but if they're trying to go to sleep, can't sleep, if they've lost their appetite or they're eating voraciously, if they're having difficulty, they're trying to study but sitting down and rereading the paragraph 8 or 9 times and not remembering anything, if they're really uncomfortable, really isolated, really struggling with motivation, those types of things are things to really pay attention to. And if you have, a group of those things going on, it's probably a good idea to suggest going into a college counseling center or to get help.
It's hard. I'm thinking back to those years. It's a fine line for parents, right? I can only speak from the student perspective, but that was a time when I know my parents wanted to give me that independence, right? And kind of loosen the leash a little bit. So you almost have to stay in touch in a careful, subtle way, so that you are in tune for those signs and symptoms if they are manifesting themselves, but also not playing the helicopter parent.
Exactly. I think it is a pretty delicate balance, and what's interesting is I think parents make mistakes both ways.
Sure.
And sometimes kids want you to make those mistakes both ways. I know for me as a freshman, my parents called me just to check to see that I was alive. I never called home.
Are you breathing? Yeah.
But some parents are the exact opposite, and sometimes they're trying to manage their own anxiety about their kid being gone, and so they call 3-4 times a day. They're constantly following up, when that's not their responsibility. Your student needs to sink or swim a little bit, and they need to take some responsibility for their development. And brains, relationships, identities, they're still growing and evolving, and sometimes we think of that child that was in our home for 18 years and we want them to stay at that identity and those things that they were interested in, but they might need that room to grow, but they also still need that support. So it is a real delicate balance to do that.
From the student's perspective, what's the biggest mistake you see students make perhaps in that first semester, that first year, that could add or compound their stress?
There are 2 things that I see that are really common. One is they try to do all of college in one semester. So they've got this newfound freedom, they've got these wonderful gatherings and parties and social activities and these really challenging and intellectually stimulating courses and all of campus life, and they try to do all of campus life in one semester when, your statistics show you probably got 5 years there. So it's okay to kind of pace yourself and take it a little bit at a time. The other thing that I see is they really struggle to maintain in real life relationships, if we can say it that way. Sometimes they stay connected back to those high school friends a little too much. So Facebook, Snap, Insta, it's real easy just to stay connected with high school.
Sure.
But then there's an extreme loneliness where you're at and not developing developing those relationships, or the exact opposite, cutting off those relationships too quick and relying too much on those things at campus. So it's really kind of trying not to isolate yourself too much in one way or the other.
I was just thinking how unique your position is with social media, with this millennial generation. It presents a whole new set of potentials, but also a whole new set of problems that can arise.
Well, some people call it the iGen, right? And where they're raised with smartphones and virtuality, is their reality. And so there is some difficulty there in overcoming that. But at the same time, it's a real powerful tool and can be really helpful in college. And in a lot of ways, things that are happening in college courses now, I would have never imagined 20 years ago when I was in college. And it's very powerful. So it's kind of harnessing those skills and things that they do well, but helping them extend those. And like I said, kind of evolve and grow a little bit socially and emotionally.
We're directing this conversation toward mental health, but we can't ignore the aspect of physical health. That plays a big role.
Exactly. I think another big mistake that I see college students make, especially first-year college students, is they tend to lose that schedule. At home, we're pretty regimented. We have a loose bedtime, if we will. We have mealtime gatherings. We kind of have a set schedule where we're eating and going, and a lot of times we skip those meals in college. I can skip a few hours of sleep here, but that really adds up. And while it won't cure everything, physical wellness really relates to mental wellness as well. So if we are changing that schedule, skipping meals, or even just the types of foods that we eat, we're used to home-cooked meals. We're not used to pizza 5 nights a week, but that's what we kind of want to go do, and that's going to take a toll on that physical health and how you feel.
What do you find trips students up most about the college experience, maybe from an academic perspective?
I think what's difficult is, especially at major universities that are really competitive to get into, I think of the big universities here in the state of Utah, the academic course load is difficult. So they're expecting, I got straight A's in high school, I'm just going to go skate through and do these courses and be just fine. But there is a different level of workload that's involved in taking and getting A's and performing as well. And so students get to the first round of tests for the first semester and see they didn't do as well, and it kind of shakes who they think they are and how well they do. But also from a career standpoint, most college students are going to change their major. You might have a student, a child of yours that, I'm going to go be a doctor, and that's what they wanted to do all their life. When they show up on campus and can't stand anatomy or biology, they're not going to end up in med school. So parents, what they can do is give them the space to have that development, to not like that course, to change those things, and that can be a really important thing for parents, not to over control. Like, it's okay that they're experiencing their own.
Which can take some patience if your eyes on that tuition bill. I'm just saying.
Exactly.
Yeah. Great advice. Great advice. I think for a lot of parents out there who feel a little helpless knowing how to reach out and support, I think you've offered some really sound resources. So thank you so much. We appreciate it.